They've done it! Crystal Palace have just won the FA Cup, beating Manchester City 1-0 at Wembley to lift their first ever major trophy. Not only that, they've got European football to look forward to at Selhurst Park next season. I am buzzing for them. I'm delighted for Crystal Palace fans. They've just made a memory to last a lifetime. And I will admit, I was rooting for them before the game, during the game, had goosebumps at the full-time whistle, looking at the emotion of people in that Palace end. Incredible. Their support was fantastic before the game, right up until the full-time whistle. They were behind their team. They were with their team. That would not have been an easy watch, especially when 10 minutes of stoppage time went up. As a neutral, it's easy to sit there going, City are never going to score. As a Palace fan, you probably didn't feel like that. Unbelievable, and just a tad jealous as well. Hopefully I'll get to see my team lift an FA Cup in my lifetime. But congratulations, Crystal Palace. They started the game with 11 players on the pitch. And when that final whistle blew, they finished up the game with an entire club made up of heroes and legends. Whether it's Henderson, Munoz, Gay, Wharton, Eze, Glasner, even Steve Parish, the guy who saved Crystal Palace on the brink of liquidation. He didn't even want to own the football club. He took it over because he had to. Since then to today, Palace have gone about things the right way. The academy is in place. It's doing well. They've gone about the transfers the right way. That club has been well run. And today they've got their reward by lifting the FA Cup and beating Manchester City as well. Fantastic achievement. Now, I'm going to try and calm down. I'm all excited. I was gripped. That game had me. I'm going to try and calm down. We're going to discuss the match. But if you're new to this channel, if you're new to Tartan Geo, please do subscribe. And also do drop a like on the video as well by clicking the thumbs up. Especially if you're a Crystal Palace fan. Bit of bribery. Does that work? I don't know. Anyway, both things are free. Takes 2 seconds and really helps out the video and the channel. A massive thank you to everyone for their support so far. Right, let's get into the game. We didn't have to wait long, did we? Before Eze made it 1-0. But before that, it was all Manchester City, just one-way traffic. And it was going to be like that because Glasner warned Pep Guardiola a month ago. Palace went to the Etihad, lost 5-2. Glasner held his hands up, admitted his mistakes, but he also warned Pep Guardiola, play like that and we will solve it. Well, he proved it today. He absolutely solved it. Because for all of the ball Manchester City had at 0-0, they created nothing. Pass it sideways, put a cross into the box, defended by Crystal Palace, pass it sideways. Gvardiol and Diaz was, in between the 18-yard box and the halfway line. City were camped in that Palace half. But it wasn't because, it is because Palace were pinned back. But was it? Or was it because Palace were sitting back? Was it because Glasner came up with his plan, had his system, and this was his plan? To sit there, to offer no space in between his defence and his midfield, to offer nothing between the midfield and Mateta, get them all back. And they played in such a confined space in the first half. Well, actually, for the duration of the game. Crystal Palace, out of possession, were compact, they were hard-working, they were very organised. Whenever City players moved to try and drag Palace players out of position, they weren't having it. They were passing players on to their teammates. This was an incredibly well-worked performance from Crystal Palace. They rocked up last month for the FA Cup semi-final against Aston Villa, blew them off the pitch with a completely different way of playing. Palace didn't play like that against Aston Villa. Glasner, 100%, in my opinion, adapted his tactics for this game. And this wasn't a fluke result. This wasn't a game or a result by accident. This would have been what Glasner was hoping would play out. And there will be a lot of talk about how poor Manchester City were. Of course there will be. It's valid. I will do it too. But I want to start by throwing credit to Oliver Glasner and his Crystal Palace players because that's why they've won the game. It may be that City failed to create enough chances because of Man City. True. But it wasn't because of City playing poorly that Palace went and scored. It wasn't because of Man City playing poorly that Glasner got his tactics spot on and they went on to win the FA Cup. It may have played its part, but I've seen City play poorly and win games. you still have to get everything right. The opposition has to capitalise on that. They've done absolutely that. The goal was fantastic. And I'm not having it. The commentary, Ali McCoy was talking, because he had the goal kick, telling him, boot it long, you're going to boot it long anyway. He went left to Gay, then he gave it to Lacroix, then he gave it to Richards, who then went long. As soon as that happened, I told you. That's not what happened, though. Palace were drawing City in. Their centre-backs weren't getting rid of the ball in a hurry. They were passing it to each other, taking a second, getting those City players to step up, creating that space, get the City midfield away from their defence, get that City midfield a couple of yards higher so that they could release Munoz. Because as soon as Doku pushes up onto Richards, that is the plan. That is what Crystal Palace are trying to do. So it's all very well suggesting they're just going to boot it long anyway. That's not what they were doing. They were encouraging City. That was the game plan. Get City forward, get Munoz released on that right-hand side, go long to Mateta. But had they just went long straight from the goal kick, that would never have occurred. A small frustration you can maybe detect. Good ball into Mateta, fantastic control. Does a 1-2, gets out onto the right-hand side to Munoz. Away he goes. Ball in is lovely, but there's a lot to do for Eze, but gets across Akanji really well. Great finish, 1-0 Crystal Palace. Against the run of play, who cares? When it comes to cup competition, the performance doesn't really matter. The result doesn't really matter. The hero doesn't really matter. All that matters is you win that game. Whether it's 1-0, 3-0, it doesn't matter. The only thing that's significant is when that full-time whistle goes, you've won that match. For what happens over that 90 minutes, it's irrelevant at that point as long as you've won. Eze became the hero. And then from then on, Palace went back into their defensive shape and it was working. City did not know what to do. They had their chances. They had flirts with opportunities. But Palace were just so hard-working, so organised, so disciplined. And every time they got the ball and broke, it looked like they were going to cause trouble. Sarr with a big opportunity, great save by Ortega. But the two big talking points in the first half, let's deal with them now. Two big VAR calls. The first one, Henderson's handball. Ball over the top, Haaland's chasing it, Henderson comes to the edge of his box, puts his hand out, Haaland puts his leg up, the ball goes away from the goal. VAR said no red card because it's not denying a clear goal scoring opportunity because the ball was moving away from the goal. The ball was moving away from the goal because Henderson slapped it outside the box. VAR agreed immediately. Henderson has handled the ball outside of his box. That was what they decided. Sure, 100% correct. The angle is definitive. Henderson's hand is outside the ball box when he makes contact. What I don't understand is why you don't then let the referee make that call. If you say to the referee, he's definitely outside his box, you go have a look. But VAR decides they're going to make the call on whether the ball was moving away from the goal or not. And to say it was is just ridiculous. Henderson's not there. Haaland brings that down inside the box. Granted, it's on his weak foot. That's irrelevant. It becomes a goal-scoring opportunity. If Henderson doesn't stick his hand out, there's an argument to be made that he crashes into Haaland and it's a red card offence. That's different. Was it a clear goal-scoring opportunity? In my opinion, 100% yes. I think Henderson at that point should have been sent off. Then we get to the next one, the penalty. Bernardo Silva goes in the box. Mitchell does his slide tackle. Silva goes down. Penalty's given. I don't think it's a penalty. I think Mitchell touches the ball. It's ever so slight, but I feel very, very confident he makes contact with that ball before he makes contact with the player. And when he does make contact with the player, Bernardo Silva's knees are already on the grass. He's already hit the deck before Mitchell makes contact with him. But regardless, I think Mitchell touches the ball way before he makes contact with Bernardo Silva. I don't think that this is a penalty. And when VAR said that he doesn't make contact with the ball, again, very incorrect. Regardless, I say poor penalty. It's got a bit of power, Marmoush's penalty. Good save by Henderson. By that logic, I guess it is a poor pen. But a fantastic stop from him. Haaland should probably shoot from the rebound. He tries to square it, gathered by Henderson. At that point on, you just knew it was going to be Crystal Palace's day. Anyway, into the second half, I think there was one small tactical tweak that Glasgow did, which really benefited Crystal Palace in the second half, and that was Sarr just coming back a little bit deeper. In the first half, I thought Doku was one-on-one with Munoz quite often. Now, Munoz was winning all but one of those challenges. The only one time he didn't win, Doku cut inside, got his shot away. Great save by Dean Henderson. In the second half, Sarr was there. Whenever Doku got the ball up against Munoz, Sarr dropped right back in, and it just meant that Wharton had to come over a little bit more, and then when he was replaced, Will Hughes was coming over a little bit more. As the game got later and later, and Nketiah was the one that was coming over and helping out, they just shuffled on along ever so slightly to prevent Doku cutting inside. Now, he did have an opportunity that went over the bar, but he couldn't get on target because of how well he was closed down. Towards the end of the game, he was cutting across from the left-hand side, and there was a Palace player with him every single time. He just could not get his shot away. In the end, he had to give it to Ruben Diaz. Then he had that incredibly selfish effort right at the end that dragged it well wide. But I thought at the start of the second half, I thought City had come up with a good tactic, a good strategy, which is get the ball out wide. In this case, it was Savinho, and get the crosses in. Because not only is Haaland good in the air, O'Reilly is tall as well, and he was getting right in there next to Erling Haaland. So they actually had two good physical targets to aim for in the box. And they never made contact, but the time it did come across and it was Richards at the back post that got his head on it, they were causing problems. Fantastic header by Richards. That was the one that fell to Doku and he had his shot over the bar. But it looked like City was perhaps going to benefit from the crosses. Then he just stopped. And then he took off Savinho and put Foden on and completely killed any threat down that right-hand side. I thought Savinho was giving Mitchell a bit of a game. Foden offered absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. That sub really killed any, and it was quite little anyway, but any threat City had went off the pitch, I felt, when Savinho went off. Because those crosses were, like I said, not connecting with City players, but they were causing a little bit of problem at the back for Crystal Palace. On they went to win 1-0, and I have to say well done to Glasgow, because after that defeat at the Etihad, Glasgow held his hands up. He made a sub at half-time in that game, took Mateta off, put Hughes on, went a bit more defensive. They ended up losing 5-2, and after the game, he admitted he made the mistake. He sent the wrong message to Crystal Palace fans, he sent the wrong message to Crystal Palace players, and he went against his philosophy. I admire that a lot, but it only counts if you actually mean it and you learn from it. Today, 1-0 up in the FA Cup final against Manchester City. He doesn't take off Sarr, doesn't take off Eze. When he takes off Mateta, he puts on Nketiah, like-for-like substitution. There was no panic. There was no chuck on defensive players here. He kept his attacking players on because now and again, not often, they had a burst of attack. Didn't lead to anything, but they were getting forward and they would just push City back even for a few minutes, give the defence a breather, keep Man City on their toes defensively. It got De Bruyne in the book, it got Bernardo Silva in the book, it got O'Reilly in the book. Palace posed some form of threat. And if that game at the Etihad doesn't happen, that today perhaps doesn't. Maybe, just maybe, Glasgow would have made defensive substitutions, but he massively learnt from his error at the Etihad. That was evident out there. I think the positioning of Kamada throughout the match was fantastic. I think sometimes there's too much emphasis on the players that play well with the ball, naturally. But I think you can sometimes ignore the players that do really well off it and perhaps aren't involved in possession. And Kamada, I thought today, was exceptional. His positioning at times in front of that Crystal Palace back three was fantastic. Whenever De Bruyne had the ball and he's looking at that space between the lines, trying to thread it into players. And the only player who was managing to give it to was Doku, who was away from Kamada. He was the other side of Wharton. But that space that Kamada was occupying, there was just no one in there. Anyone that tried to go in there, they couldn't get there. Kamada was blocking all the passing channels in there. So he wasn't touching the ball per se, but I think positionally, I think he had a superb game in front of that Palace defence. And I'm not been his biggest fan since joining Palace. But I think he had his best game in Palace shirt at Wembley against Villa, and he's had another very, very good one today. Now, Munoz picked up man of the match. Completely understand why. Personally, I would have gave it to Dean Henderson, saving a pen. Yes, he shouldn't have been on the pitch, but blame VAR. Saves a pen. Really good stop from Doku. Really good save in the second half. Really good save from Erling Haaland at 0-0 as well. He had a brilliant game. But Palace as a team, that team performance was just absolutely fantastic out there. As for Manchester City, this game was of low quality for both teams. The things I'm admiring about Crystal Palace is off the ball, out of possession. I guess that's to some extent the way football's gone this season. The teams that are better at that are succeeding. But Manchester City, when the lineup came out, I thought, wow, that's attacking from Pep Guardiola. De Bruyne and Silva at the heart of midfield. Marmoush, Doku, Savinho and Haaland. Oh, bloody hell, here we go. Just nothing. Absolutely no creativity. A lot of attacking players. A lot of players that should have creativity, should have flair. None of it. Absolutely none of it between them. Doku is the most confusing player in the world. For me, I can't work out if he's a good player. He's fantastic at beating his man. That's it. That's where the quality stops. Savinho was a bit like that today. At times didn't beat his man. Haaland didn't get a sniff in there. Marmoush was completely anonymous. De Bruyne was getting on the ball a lot, but there was nothing to do. There was no one to pass to. There was no runs in behind. Nothing. And I can't help think, but this is where City need a Riyad Mahrez, someone that's just going to grab the game by the scruff of the neck, someone that's got that X factor, that bit of spice that can make something happen. City don't really have that. Doku, they just don't carry the same threat as what Riyad Mahrez did for them. There was just nothing there from Manchester City. And even when the game was ticking on, I was confident they weren't going to score. I was confident Palace were going to see it out. And in the end, it was pretty comfortable. The statistics will show loads of possession, loads of touches in the opposition box. Reality was, while Henderson had 3 or 4 good saves to make, that was it. He wasn't tested all that much. A poor performance from Manchester City, but that's not the story of today. The story of today is just how good Palace were, and they've won their first major trophy ever. That's an outstanding achievement. And then they'll be dining off this for a while, and so they should. Give it 12 months, they'll still be buzzing. The next FA Cup final is going to come around. They'll be reminiscing about today, and so they should. That's what football's about. And I'm a bit of a romantic when it comes to the FA Cup. I hate how it's no longer priority. It shouldn't be played today. It should be played after the season's finished. But I'm a real romantic when it comes to the FA Cup. And sure, it could have been a little bit more romantic today, which would have been Joel Ward coming off the bench and banging in a 90th minute winner. But unrealistic but ideal scenarios to one side. I think today the romance side of football won. And on Monday, when we have Brighton taking on Liverpool, Crystal Palace fans can smile knowing that 8th place doesn't get European football this season. So Brighton can't get European football, but not only that. When the season's all done and dusted and we come back in August, they've got the Europa League to look forward to now. This is a huge chapter in the story of Crystal Palace. But it doesn't feel like a one-off. It doesn't feel like the end of their story. Because there's already another one waiting to be written next season. Glasnow's done a tremendous job. They've got some fantastic players there. They've got a big summer coming up. But they get it right. They'll be more than fine next season. But what they can do in August, what Palace fans can now do in August, they can believe. They can look forward to the Europa League and think, do you know what? If Man U and Spurs can get to the final, surely we can go on and win it. Glasnow's done it. We've won the FA Cup. Can we go on and win the Europa League? And I think they can. And it's not just because they won the FA Cup. It's because they're a bloody good team. And what Glasnow has shown, again, is he's a top manager. Good day of football. A win for football. I think Newcastle winning the Carabao Cup, Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup. I like it. I'm a fan of it. Anyway, there you go. That's my review of Crystal Palace lifting the FA Cup. Once again, congratulations. Palace fans, enjoy it. I absolutely love it for you. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe, drop a like on the video, and I'll catch up with you in a bit.